Hey everybody, thank you for those who came out this past Saturday at the Mint in LA. It was a really fun show, and I have another show coming up this Saturday, May 18th at the Unurban Coffee House in Santa Monica. That's on Pico. That's a showcase. I'll be sharing the night with a few friends, some musicians, and that should be really fun. And also look out for my new single being released on the 28th, May 28th. The song is called Old Sadness. It's a beautiful song. It's gonna be awesome to release. Lots of violins, cellos, cool parts in that song. It's another song that I've been recording with Plaid Dog. But look out for those. I'll put links in the description for my Spotify for the pre-save for that single release, and also Unurban Coffee Shop in Santa Monica. I'll put the address in there. There's no tickets. It's a free show. Come on by. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Songs of Healing podcast with Ian Taylor, a podcast where we explore the healing elements of song and songwriting and how they are used to heal and process life experiences. I am your host, Ian Taylor, singer-songwriter, coach, and humble student of life, offering my perspectives, wisdom, heartfelt honesty, and story. Continuing on with the story arc that we've been following in these episodes. In this episode, we're going to be focusing on this song called Silver Sail, which was on my home recorded album, recorded in my studio in Oakland that I was living in back in 2015. I think that's when this was, 2015-16. And the album was called Surrender and Sway, Look Towards Another Day. And this song, really, the first word that comes to my mind when listening to this song is escapism. I have a lot of kind of images in this song of setting out onto a new life, because that's really what I was feeling at this time in my life. After going through this trying experience with women and just having this impulse to embark onto something new. And in retrospect, I remember looking back at this album. It was definitely was reflecting this element for me of wanting to move on into something else, something less painful in my life, and also to kind of follow this dream that's been with me my whole life of stardom in some way, around my music. And I remember at this time it just kind of like there was like so much inner turmoil that I was going through. And I've also been a very spiritual person. I've always felt a connection to God. And this song also, it reminds me a lot of this kind of like surrendering to the wind of fate, and just like surrendering into the ultimate faith in God's protection, of just kind of setting out into the world and kind of letting the wind blow me like a leaf into the perfect situations in my life and just fully testing like the presence of God in my life, that, putting myself out there in this way of like wandering the world, that it would get me in touch with God's presence more. And I remember that's kind of what was going on a lot for me when I wrote these lyrics. And yeah. But I think it was that kind of mixed in with this sense of escapism too, and also this sense of, feeling like I was, or have always been meant for something more than what I was experiencing at the time. Feeling like I was meant for to have some sort of effect on the world or influence on the world through my creativity, through my expression. And and at this time it was my early 30s, and that was still with me. It's interesting now, reflecting back to that time, now that I'm 42, how I think I've talked about this in other podcast episodes, but I don't know if there's more of a jadedness or just more of a sense of realism, being realistic in my life. I'm more in this place that's, I guess, feels a lot more grounded, which is I'm just doing what I can to survive while I'm doing my art and while I'm utilizing my gifts to the best of my ability in a way that feels authentic to me, that feels like I'm living in integrity with myself and my truth. So, back then, I think I had a lot more of this sense of, what a response to trauma, a response to a constant form of trauma, which for me was neglect, is to adopt behaviors of escapism. And I adopted my behaviors of escapism through my creativity and through my kind of dreaming and my imagination. So, I carried it into my adult life. And honestly, it kind of has been like my form of addiction. The challenges with women, and also my tendency to kind of dissociate and check out from reality, especially back then. It was thicker back then. I was thicker in the pattern back then. I would say now in my life, it's kind of like my tolerance for the emotions that I've pushed aside is much more expanded now. So I have a capacity to feel more, which also is mixed with, more intense emotions can kind of come up for me now, because I've really come into this place in my life where I'm able to feel them more, and I'm able to accept them more, and I'm able to let them flow more. And, and I realize that I need to have a constant practice of self-intimacy, of checking in with myself, of checking in with my internal states. Back then, I was just discovering this stuff, and also these deep dives into songwriting was kind of also a real start to that deeper intimacy with myself, because it was the first time I was really like committing to putting my emotions and all that swirls inside of me out into the form of music, the form of songwriting. It's a time when I started journaling a lot more in my life, when I was dealing with these deep, trying experiences of heartache, heartbreak. So, yeah. So it's like it was a time where I was realizing the trauma that lives inside of me, realizing my patterns of escape, realizing my patterns of getting caught in, unhealthy dynamics with women, where I'm giving away too much of my energy, too much of my life force for something that's unavailable or unattainable. And so it was like I was creating a lot of self-awareness at that time by committing to my own healing journey. And I was also awakening to, the painful patterns that I was getting involved in. And really, since then, it's just a deeper and deeper refinement of that. But anyways, that's a little bit of the story. We're going to listen to the song now. It's called Silver Sail. And this song, it's like there's a real tribal element to it. I would say that when I wrote this song, it was definitely an experimental, very experimental type of song. I had the kind of the sonic visuals, or what I was hearing the song coming into me when I wrote it was kind of this like drum circle with just constant strumming guitars, acoustic guitars, and people just singing around me. I remember I sang the song with a band up in Arcata, and I remember always saying like these vocal parts, it's like you just need to embody and voice your deepest passionate pain, your deepest celebration of pain, and kind of just sing it out in these choruses, because these choruses are just kind of like it's like a kind of chorus, but in a more beautiful way than that. So anyways, let's listen to the song and I'll break it down a bit.
Raise the silver sail and let the compass of your dreams take you to lands of vast mystery. The waves from which you hail, let it be taken by the sea breeze. All that you have failed, let the cleansing tears fall in reverie. Oh, to the fount that hear the under sound and are unfixed to the ground. And oh, to the sound that finds the profound and isn't fixed to the ground. Surrender and sway and look towards another day. The whole of your weight just draws forth your inner grace. Drink to your death and smoke to fill your emptiness. The wish on your breath is the effect of the fear of your emptiness. And oh, to the sound that finds the profound and isn't fixed to the ground. And oh, to the found that hear the unheard sound and isn't fixed to the ground. sail.
Raise the silver sail and let the compass of your dreams take you to lands of vast mystery. The ways from which you hail, let it be taken by the sea breeze. All that you have failed, let the cleansing tears fall in reverie. An ode to the found that hear the unheard sound and are unfixed to the ground. An ode to the sound that finds the profound and is unfixed to the ground. So again, it's like, yeah, I really had this image of like, you know, taking to the seas to kind of find, I guess, new land in one's life, to find new experiences of mystery, to find ourselves, you know, in a way that we couldn't plan for, I guess, you know, the kind of courageous step into the unknown. I always loved that kind of imagery, and the kind of, just the idea of being able to do that in one's life. Maybe it's like the pioneer spirit inside of me still in some way, and how there's I think it lives kind of deep in all of our souls, this sense of adventure and exploration to go out and discover what is in those unknown lands. And it's like, I think that's like the outward desire, you know, that's like the superficial desire, but I think that desire is actually a real deep, almost like archetypal desire within ourselves to explore our own inner mysteries. At least that's kind of what I've come to learn for myself in exploration, inner exploration. And how I do think like we do confuse outer with inner sometimes, you know. And all that you have failed, let the cleansing tears fall in reverie. It's kind of like this idea of like leaving, setting into a new life, and kind of like, and forgetting your past failures or the things that you failed in life, and starting over, really. I mean, at this time, I definitely felt like I had some failures behind me, you know, for the first time in my life. I think that had been a pretty sobering realization for me, you know, the experiences I had gone through. And this song was just kind of like an embodiment of trying to move on. And an ode to the found that hear the unheard sound and are unfixed to the ground. It's kind of like an ode to the ones. The song is an ode to the ones that are in touch with something that is not easily heard by the masses. And they are unfixed to the ground, like as in they're unfixed to maybe typical ways of thinking and perceiving life, and they're unfixed to the trappings of the earth, and they're more connected to maybe something spiritual and universal and cosmic.
Surrender and sway, and look towards another day. All of your weight just draws forth your inner grace.
Surrender and sway and look towards another day. The pull of your weight just draws forth your inner grace. So, surrender. I've always loved that word because it can be kind of taken a couple ways. It can be taken as a surrender in battle, like we accept defeat. It can also be taken as a spiritual surrender, a surrender into God's grace, maybe a surrender of our ego, or surrender of our sense of control, a surrender of maybe what we planned for our life, but a surrender into faith that the path that is drawn out before us is maybe going to lead us to places we could not have planned. And maybe that's the whole important dynamic of surrendering into the great unknown of our own lives to become the things that we could have never dreamed of. And so at this time in my life, there was definitely like a surrender. I was desiring more surrender. I was desiring more. I think I've always been someone that's like, I've had this kind of balance between like feeling like I love control and I love structure and I love routine. And I also can feel the kind of aspects inside of myself that could just be taken by the wind and kind of survive on God's grace. And also this second line, the pull of your weight just draws forth your inner grace, which is essentially, it's like kind of what I'm saying in a simplified way is like the weight that we feel in our lives, the heaviness that we're dealing with, like the troubles, the complexity, the complications we find ourselves wrapped up in, the problems we find ourselves facing. How if we are able to kind of surrender into these problems, what we perceive as problems, and are able to kind of fix ourselves more towards maybe an aspect of acceptance, of surrendering rather than of fighting, that will naturally draw forward our inner grace, which is maybe just the grace of acceptance or the grace of compassion. And how it's interesting, I find, how this life and the hardships we go through, if we are able to really be present with them, how they do bring forward a kind of grace. And I know, like what I said, it's pretty, I said something that's pretty vast in a very condensed way just now. But I really do think that there's some sort of magic in our hardships, that our hardships mold us if we are able to persevere and open and perceive them in a vast, expanded perspective, that we can see the grace in them. We can see that it shapes our compassion, that it strengthens our character, makes us empathetic.
Drink to your death and smoke to fill your emptiness. The wish on your breath is the effect of the fear of your emptiness.
Drink to your death and smoke to fill your emptiness. The wish on your breath is the effect of the fear of the nothingness. when I recorded this song, I was just so into making it as a kind of as a in the moment and home studio as possible sounding. Like the emptiness and the nothingness, I slur those words in this recording. And I was just kind of like, that's how it's going to be. That's how the song is. I don't know why I made that decision when I was recording it, but I just kind of wanted it to sound like a song that was very in the moment, maybe recorded live or something like that. You know, I remember at this time when I wrote that line, I think I was hanging out at a trim scene, hanging out with these people that smoke and drank a lot. And I would indulge here and there at this time in my life, and just kind of was aware of this addiction, you know, these addictions, and how there's a certain kind of emptiness that you're trying to chase with every cigarette. And how when you're drinking, there's a certain kind of demise in that whole act, to me, that's kind of at the root of these actions or these behaviors or addictions or impulses. Felt like it was like death was at the root in some way. This desire to die, or this desire to not exist, this desire to not deal with this life and the aliveness of this life and the blooming moment and the ecstasy of this life. And how, drink to your death and smoke to fill your nothingness or emptiness. And the wish on your breath is the effect of the fear of your nothingness or of the nothingness. I mean, what is desire? You know? What is the wishes that we have in our lives? What is the wants that we speak of that are on the tip of our tongues every moment in our lives? You know, those wants are pulling us out of this moment, out of this present, you know, ecstatic moment. And really those wants, it's like an addiction to try to get away from the nothingness, maybe that is just right here in this moment. This kind of, maybe this neutral nothingness is actually what the present moment is. And, you know, and there was something around the fear of annihilation. This is all like very meditative, spiritual concepts that kind of went into that verse. And it was just stuff I was thinking about, just noticing these behaviors and how there's a certain kind of like drinking to our death that goes on in the aspect of partying. I think it's like the aspect of just trying to get away from the emptiness and the nothingness that we are terrified of. This song was really like, there's a lot of escapism in it, and there's a lot of kind of these spiritual concepts, and also just this song really represents this kind of feeling, this beautiful feeling and this beautiful vision or image that I've always carried with me, which is this kind of surrendering into God's grace or into the wind of spirit. And I, you know, there's something actually deep in my heart around that visual that I've always felt. This beautiful, just ultimate trust in the universe, in the idea, or just the deep belief that we are really taken care of in the arms of the Lord, of God. I've just always really felt connected to that, and I've always felt that in my life, even with all the troubles that I can go through. Raise the silver sail. So I hope you guys enjoyed this song, Silver Sail, and I hope you have a beautiful week, and we'll catch you next time.